Hello and welcome to Rambling Reviews. We are here. We are at episode, where are we? 8? The Hey Ho Whoa car. Fabulous episode, as always. But before we get to that, very quickly, I just want to cover something that came up in the comments. A few people noted, and some, I had, initially I was just getting people saying that not all the cars had been, I was seeing comments of people basically saying, oh, I don't think all the cars have been ejected. But in my head, I couldn't really see how they hadn't been. You know, this anomaly is heading through them, it's corrupting the cars, not directly, but like there's a corruption in the car. I don't see any way it doesn't get ejected once Hazel's been in there, and particularly Amelia's quote, which is, some of the train cars have corrupted code. I created the pulse that scans for that code. It was working fine until 3 weeks ago when cars started ejecting one after another. Now, that suggests a lot of cars have been ejected. I don't think anyone can dismiss that. Cars started ejecting cars one after another. We only know of 2. So that definitely suggests a lot of cars have been ejected. But there is hope, because some people did sort of clarify. So the first few comments I saw were just sort of saying that they didn't necessarily think other cars, but I couldn't see how you got around it. But 2 different commenters at least have made a very, very good point that never occurred to me and absolutely should have. It's very clear that this pulse that she's created has a sort of, it's a periodic pulse, like it's set to, it passes through every so often. And I think the implication is obviously if the pulse doesn't go through the car while Hazel's on it, then it ain't getting chucked. So, problem solved, mystery solved, which means that theoretically there's wiggle room for any car they want to keep around to have stayed around. So it's right now it's kind of Schrodinger's car for any of the cars they've been on, because you know when we're watching an episode of the show and they're passing through a car, we don't see every frame of every second they're in that car. You know, sometimes it's day and then it goes to night and they've been sleeping or whatever. So there's always room for at some point the pulse to have, you know, visually passed through and us to have not caught it as an audience. And then they've left, and then shortly thereafter the car has been ejected. Still not clear if that what happens with that, because when we saw it, there was a pulse and then immediate ejection. Yet the Canyon of the Golden Winged Snake's car, that pulse went, that like Amelia tagged that one for thingy, you know, for ejection a while back, and it hasn't gone yet, unless she has some mild control over delaying that or something. So yeah, who knows. So that car's definitely been ejected post them leaving, because she was very clear that was going. But the fact they were, you know, able to have their little adventure on that and then move on suggests there's a chance that other cars survived. Which ones? Who knows? But again, we only saw 2. One of them was a correct ejection, because it was the unfinished car, which is that's what the pulse is designed to catch and eject, those cars of Amelia's. On the other hand, the other cars it's been ejecting, like the Colour Clock car, is a result of poor Hazel. So anyway, that's just way to cover that up top, because yeah, you guys are absolutely right to point that out. Her phrasing made it seem like tons and tons of cars, one after the other. When cars started ejecting one after the other 3 weeks ago, which I assume at this point is roughly when they met Hazel. So yeah. That's there you go. That covers that. If the pulse didn't happen to pass through while they were in that car survived. So percentage of them did, and a percentage of them did not. How frequent that pulse is, how many of those cars ejected, who knows? But the fancy dancing car may very well be fine. And let's be honest, that's really all we care about. So let's go to the episode and break it down. So this episode, for those who don't remember, because I just spent far too long covering something from the previous one instead of actually getting straight into this one. But this is episode 8, Hey Ho Whoa Car, and it opens with them still in the Canyon of the Golden Winged Snake's car. From the previous episode, they were sort of waking up from their from the night before, where they'd gone to sort of camp out in that place. Simon is gone. Obviously, we know where he's been. But Hazel seems to have gained a certain amount of control over her turtley powers now, which I think is pretty cool. I really enjoyed seeing her just like looking at her hand and then like concentrating on the claw just coming in and out and in and out. Obviously, it is still emotion based, but there's clearly a certain amount of control she can gain if she concentrates really hard and, you know, practices maybe even. I think that's going to come in handy. which she's definitely on a slow path to understanding how that works. It kind of really reminds me of Kippo. I don't know if anyone's been watching Kippo and the Age of the Wonder Beasts. She has an ability as well that's sort of like connected to her emotions, but she can also control as she learns. It feels like that. I don't want to say too much about that because I don't want to spoil that show for anyone who's not seen it. If you haven't seen that show, by the way, and you're enjoying Infinity Train, maybe give Kippo and the Age of the Wonder Beasts a little try. I don't think it's got necessarily the same tone, but it's got a deep mythology and some pretty good music, and it's fun. The episodes are a little longer; they're like 20-minute episodes, and there's like 2 series on Netflix. It's a Netflix show, so there you go. I recommend it. Anyway, moving on. You're all probably off watching Owl House. That seems to be the show of the moment that I keep seeing people talk about. Anyway, so yeah, I'm really enjoying that they're sort of setting up Hazel gaining some control. And I particularly like the sort of character moment that comes along with that, which is, Grace again trying to, hide your light under a bushel, as they say in the in the old Bible. This idea that, like, you must not sort of like hide from yourself, and that's pretty much what we get here. We get like Grace being like, "Shh, put it away, like you don't want to be seen with that. Stop it!" Like, and she's basically like, "Why? It's me," And again, such a level of maturity this young character has. It's kind of remarkable. It's incredible, really, because she's a program. I understand that, and she must have maybe she has some of Ulrich's maturity programmed into her, because we learned this episode she's potentially one of the attempts to create Ulrich in the code, which we'll come back to and analyze in a little bit more detail in a second. But I just think it's really interesting that she's just so like mature, like for a 6-year-old. Like, she keeps showing up Grace and Simon for her maturity. She really does. That understanding of, be who you are, don't hide that, you are who you are, sort of, and the idea that Grace is making her hide it, she's like, why? Like, it's part of me now, and I understand, like, she's learning to understand it and accept it as part of her, and she's almost confused that Grace isn't on board with that. And I just think that shows a great maturity from the character. I really enjoy it. Amelia's great in this episode. She sort of shows up and is like, I'm not really good at this, but you want eggs? I'm making eggs. It's just this really, like, she's beaten down, but it's so funny. Like, at one point while she's making the eggs, you see her number go down a little, but she's like, yeah, drop in the ocean. Which is another cool, just like, idea that, like, she's not excited when her number goes down. She is hoping to one day maybe make amends. She actually says that. She later in the episode, we'll come back to that though. There's some stuff to take apart in there. I really enjoy how many eggs does a child eat? 6.5. That's the answer apparently. So she gets 6 partially burnt eggs. There's a great little moment earlier in the episode which led to. So I picked up on this one, but there's another one that it leads to. So we've talked a lot about, as we've gone, about the Hazel relationship and connection to Amelia. It's come up multiple times, right? We've had several situations where I've gone like, I recognize this to be a hint at an Amelia thing, like the fact that it's a turtle. That's Amelia. You know what I mean? Like, there's that links her straight to Amelia. The Britishisms links her to Amelia. The one that we missed, there's one in this episode I caught, but it's led people to one that we missed too, and that's really cool. So the one that's in this episode is, you make the best pancakes. And she's like, you've just met me, you wouldn't know that, you couldn't know that, is what Hazel says to Amelia. But in Amelia's tape, when we go up, and there's lots of little flickers of her life in the tiny things, which I never thought to pause and look at, but I remember there's a shot of her cooking with Ulrich, and it looks like they're doing pancakes. But even better than that, go back to the Fancy Dancing Car, episode 3. And Hazel says, I took classes. Couples do ballroom as a fun bonding activity. And of course, you go back to Amelia's tape, the bit where Tulip 1-1 and Thingy fly up to look at the cat, look up Samantha, fly up to look down at all of her memories. Boom. There it is. The couple dancing, presumably doing ballroom. it's so intricate. I love it. That's genius, right in our faces. Because I felt proud. I picked up. I mean, I got the advantage. I'm British, but the Britishisms, the turtle links, like, you know, I felt like I really did string together a lot of like evidence for my theories this series. Usually my theories just come out of like my guesses of where the narrative will go, and I guess that's what we'll get to at the end of this episode, because I don't have many theories based in evidence left. We've sort of confirmed or denied most of them at this point, so now we're going into pure speculation at the end of this episode about what's coming. But yeah, I think that's really cool. I think that the way they layered that in, super, super cool. I just think that it's... Let me just check. Oh god, I've already been talking for 10 minutes and I'm barely through this episode. I'm sorry. I will speed up going through my notes. But that is a really nice detail. I loved the line, he was a person, my person, and I lost him. Just something about that made me feel for Amelia. I just thought it was a really nice way to phrase it. I like her belt a lot. And I wonder, and I never really... I was trying to figure out, did we see when she was the conductor, did we see somebody like jump at her and then get like bounced away because that wave on her helmet was actually a thing? I don't remember seeing it. I mean, didn't Tulip hit it with a crowbar and break it up? If that wave is really like a sound emitter thing that puts like a pulse out that kind of protects her, shouldn't that have protected the big robot she was in? I don't know. Speculate. Look, that's not a serious criticism. I don't 100% know for sure. I guess that the belt and the wave on the robot are the same technology. They sure look it though. So yeah, did she have that ability? Why wasn't it turned on when Tulip started wailing on her with a donut holler? Who knows? But it's really cool. It's a really neat. It makes her so badass without having to do anything. It's great when like. Both times in this episode when Simon tries to attack her and bounces back, like, she just comes across like a complete badass, which is just great. We do finally get the moment I've been waiting for since the trailer for this series, I guess. They finally hear the truth. The only false conductor is the conductor they've been following. And immediately, we also sort of are heading straight down the route that I called... way back in like episode 1 or 2. One of these guys was going to accept it and someone was going to double down, and it's Grace that's like listening and being like, oh my god, this makes an upsetting amount of sense, and it's Simon that's not believing it, and I think that says a lot about these characters. We'll talk about Simon a bit more when we get to the last moment from the episode, but I do think it's important to note that when the truth finally is dropped, when Amelia finally says, I was the conductor, I took over the train, 1-1's the rightful conductor, Simon very, very much like like these people do when faced with facts. And you see this in real life, you know, you see videos of Trump supporters, and I don't want to make this too political, so I'm going to I'm just going to keep this nice and clean. Trump often tells lies, factually tells lies, regardless of your political leanings. That unfortunately is true. Several websites verify the data and the things he says, and very often, and I'm being so polite here, but I don't want to be, he's very often been caught out not telling the truth. But you ask his supporters, and they'll explain away anything, and the logic is varied. Sometimes you sort of go, you're wrong, but I could see a person believing that. You followed a certain amount of logic, and sometimes it's insanity that doesn't fit. But they want to believe the narrative, right? They don't want to look stupid. They don't want to feel stupid. That's why this backfire effect thing is so powerful, right? For those who don't know, there's an Adam Conover video from Adam Rumors Everything where he talks about the backfire effect, which is where you try to brute force someone into thinking your way, and you present them with so much hard evidence, and they actually, instead of taking it on board, actually go exactly the opposite way and double down on this incorrect belief. Or factually inaccurate belief or whatever. And I think that's what's happening with Simon here, because in this episode, I know I'm going off piece now, but you know, in this episode, he's constantly sort of explaining away, you know, what he's seeing, and it starts with just him saying that she's completely lying. Like, she's lying. She's making up. She's working with 1-1. And as often happens, and has been happening even with Trump, when a lie is disproved, it then becomes, well, but even if that's true, then there's this. It's that sort of like backpedally adjust your position. Anybody who keeps adjusting their position to defend themselves like that and backpedals like that is usually incorrect. But in the face of evidence, he goes, okay, well, maybe she was the false conductor. But even then, she's lost her way. So he's still right. And the way he reframes it to make sure that at the end of the day he's still right is classic doubling down. But he's presented with evidence of that in this episode, and he still isn't taking it. He's still making excuses to defend his actions and his viewpoints because God forbid. I mean, particularly here, imagine discovering that you're wrong about this stuff, like what they've been doing with those kids, keeping them on that thing, stopping them from getting better, therefore going home to their families. Like, it's actually, the more you think about it, the more messed up the Apex is. And when that hits them, and they're going to have to atone a little for their behavior. And I think slowly Grace is. In fact, we'll come back to this later, but I do think Grace is going to be going home this season. I've kind of landed on that as a theory now. I think a number of reasons we're not seeing it is because it's been going down very low the more she defends and helps Hazel. And I think she's close to 0. I think that's possible. Anyway, there's a really nice moment in this episode actually where Grace says to Amelia, well, I say it's a nice episode, but there's a moment that I thought was worth noting, which is when Grace says, years ago in the pumpkin card, you remember saving a girl, and immediately Amelia's just like, no, I don't remember that, but can we stop reminiscing and move on? Like, I did so much shit. I've been here for so long. No, is the answer. Doesn't mean it wasn't me, but no. Very dismissive, which I think you could take one of two ways, and I think people have done. I've seen comments either way. Some people have been saying, like, oh, she does remember, and, like, there's some significance to that to her. Or it is just what it seems on the surface, which is that she's just been through so much stuff. Like, saving that one girl doesn't mean anything to her, doesn't have any meaning or relevance to her. I'm not sure which. I would like it to be that there was something more to that. But ultimately, how much more of what a shattering to Grace's ideology would that be if she found out the conductor kind of saved her either by accident or without really caring? That would be another blow. And as we say, we've been chipping away at her belief system this entire season, so I don't see why we couldn't do that some more. So either way, I think that's... Anyway, which way you think of that, I think either option is very possible and could very much be where the show goes. I really like the moment where Grace uses her sort of fake manipulative shtick that she uses on the kids, on Simon. Well, I just trust you so much, and I just think right now we should go forward into the next car. Come on, Ponytail, it'll be fun. Like, or whatever that... I can't remember what she said, I didn't write the line down. But, like, she does it, and he, like... And this is before he sort of doubled down and, had the moment I talked about where she even lost her way. I sort of jumped around in the episode a bit. But at this point, before he has every notion he has in his head shattered, he totally falls for that. And I thought that was really interesting too, that she still has some hold on him and he goes a bit red. I do think Simon has strong feelings for Grace, and I think that's what's made this so hard for him, and also why he's ended up in such denial about her and her beliefs. Really love the car itself, the Hey Ho Wo car. I think it's simple and brilliant in the way that the show often does, where it's like a really unintrusive car when we need an unintrusive car. When you want an adventure about a car where the car is the focus, you do the debutante ball car, fancy dancing car. And I do recall actually saying in that episode this would be the last one of these sorts of episodes we get this season, and I guess I was kind of wrong because we did have the color clock car. But other than that, I have been mostly, I think, on point. Like, a lot of these episodes, the cars haven't really played a big part in the actual story. They've been there, obviously, because the episodes have to take place somewhere, and they've had some interesting ideas, but they've all been like this episode's one, where the car just kind of exists. It's not a particularly difficult puzzle to solve, or it's not that treacherous of a place. A little. Enough to occasionally push you into, like, so that in the canyon car with the winged snakes, the winged golden snakes, one of them tries to attack them and Amelia saves them. But that's all that car really did in terms of influence the story, other than being a location for them to talk to Amelia and escape in the previous episode. And this car, again, all it is an excuse for them to have to be sat down and talking, and that's perfect, because it's not like the car doesn't. It's not just but it isn't just. But that's the thing, is they're clever enough to know that it can't just be, here's a fields car. They're going to walk through some fields and talk about stuff. The car still has to have something about it, and it makes sense as well that there'll be times when the car knows that these people who are trying to wants them to get better will need to sit and talk and figure out their feelings and stuff. So cars like the Hey Ho Wo car are actually kind of genius, because the premise, for those of you who either don't remember or have not watched it recently or whatever, is that the car starts to fill up. There's all these tubes at the top, and there's these little square rock-looking guys that keep falling out with faces. They anthropomorphize, and hey, oh, whoa, as they fall down into this giant chasmous pit. And the idea is the car will slowly fill up over a very long time, like you could be in there a day, and then when it's full, you can climb over them to get to the other side where the door is. And then at some point when the car is empty, I assume, or even maybe before, it resets and it's empty again. They all get sucked around and they all have, hey, oh, whoa, and you've got to wait again. Genius. Simple, unintrusive to the story we're telling. Same with the Golden Winged Snake's car. Absolutely perfect storytelling, like pitch perfect, genius. Because we don't need a complicated car this week. There's enough character stuff to get through and conversations to get through and stuff to explore. So that is, chef's kiss. I've given that out like maybe once an episode this series so far, and that's my chef's kiss for this week, is for the car itself, which is just perfectly nothing. And I mean that in the best way. I really do. Please understand what I'm saying when I say that. Do not take that the wrong way. So we get more conversation between them all. I mean, she says very specifically she's not a prisoner of 1-1. She's making amends, Amelia, which I think is really good. I think it's what I predicted. I did say that, like, if we come across Amelia again, she'll probably be trying to get her number down and doing the right thing. So there you go. When Simon doubles down and gets in her face about it and is like, "Nah, you're either lying or you've lost your way, whatever," she sort of very correctly observes what a child he's being, and she literally says, "You're a child." And it comes back to this premise that Simon really hasn't grown up because of this insanely messed up childhood he's had, and he loses it, doubles down. Again, we talk about him doubling down. He just goes outright crazy and starts attacking her, kicking her, but she's not getting through because she's got this shield thing, this sonic shield thing, whatever you want to call it. During all that, of course, my notes, I've just written the words, "It's turtle time." I forgot I'd done that. You know when you sort of like, you're doing something in a daze, and I'll be honest with you, if I seem a little bit off today, I finished a shift at work and I've come home to record this so I could have it 3 days on the trot, because my other option was because I'm working tomorrow as well, so my other option would be to wait till Tuesday to release this. So I've bit the bullet and I'm recording it after work. So if I seem sleepy or like tired or like I'm not making as much sense as usual, that would be why. Anyway, so when I was rewatching the episode before I started recording, like my laziness, I wanted to make a note to remind myself to talk about this moment, but I didn't have the energy to write too much, so I just wrote, "It's turtle time." That's amazing. What the mind will do. So Hazel's getting upset because she likes Amelia, because she's programmed to, presumably, a little bit. She's really upset that Simon's attacking Amelia the way she's connecting that, I assume, to Tuba, as well as her own affection for Amelia, who seems nice to her. I think she's got a good sense of people, hasn't she, that Hazel? She's smart as a whip. She sussed Simon out pretty quickly. She trusts Grace, and she should. Of the two, that's for sure. But it's such a dramatic moment because obviously Simon's trying to kick and punch Amelia, and then suddenly she's screaming out "stop!" and then she's a turtle, and this is a big deal for Simon and Amelia, and it's a huge moment in the episode, and it's really dramatic, and it is brilliantly undercut with one of my favorite jokes. Because this is a sort of joke that's so predictable and so been done. Like, they do it in this is a joke they do in like Friends. You know, like when somebody found out that, I remember when Chandler and Monica were sleeping with each other and somebody knew, and then another person found out, and the first person who already knew was like, "Oh, what a shock!" But the way they do it here undercuts like, that's a comedy, so you expect that sort of thing. The way that joke is done here and why it's so effective is because it's such a dramatic moment. I really did not expect them to do it. So he turns into a turtle, mind's blown for Amelia and Simon. And Grace is just like, oh no! Oh, I had no idea that. Oh, she's a turtle. Like, you know, like, it's not exactly that. I didn't write the quote down, but like, it's this brilliant fake reaction of surprise, and it's such a tense, dramatic moment that it cuts through that I just truly loved that. There's a little throwaway line for Amelia that she's like, "Oh, it was only a handkerchief," which very much confirms what I suggested in the last episode, which is that my early theory about there being a deeper memory or meaning to the turtles is absolutely wrong. It's just some weird, obscure thing that somehow worked its way into all her code, intentionally, unintentionally, whatever reason. The handkerchief is the explanation. She says it was just a handkerchief. Like, why are there so many turtle-based things? And then she basically explains the potential truth of, I think the truth of Hazel, which is that Hazel is some attempt to create Ulrich that's gone wrong. And she even says that the number on the hand, the 337, was her original number when she got on the train. And again, that's another moment that's quite reasonably dramatic. Well, maybe not dramatic, but very informative. Quite a lot of exposition. She's sort of figuring it out. She's thinking it through. And she's like, this makes a lot of sense. And then Hazel's just like, I'm Hazel. She's like, debatable. And like, it's so dismissive. It's another really good moment from this episode. I made a note to talk about that because I just thought it was great. So yeah, now we come to the real crux of this. We know, everyone knows now, Hazel is not a person, a passenger in the traditional sense. And Simon's like, well, we're just free. Leave her with this false conductor. Leave her with Amelia, who can look after her and figure it out, because that's perfect. Like, I don't have to deal with her anymore. She's not a person anyway. Come on, Grace, let's go. And that's it. You finally have you're putting Grace, because they've all season, she's been able to dodge out of it. She's never been faced with the hard choice. She's always been able to sit on the fence, play both sides, because of the circumstances. Simon didn't know she was really a turtle. Grace could pretend she was protecting Hazel, who is a person, that is acceptable to Simon. But now Simon knows she's a null, and I guess believes, initially at least, Grace's proclamation that she didn't already know, although I think it's very comedically obvious, but hey-ho. Hey-ho, whoa. To be precise. So yeah, I think that's fine. I don't mind I don't mind that they did that at all. But it's the moment. It's the choice. She's finally put in a position she can't weasel her way out of. She can't sit on the fence of, not without giving the game away, and that is what happens. She's immediately chooses to be harsh to Hazel. She puts Simon over Hazel. She's like, I'll leave if I want to, null. And then she sees Hazel upset, and she softens immediately. And then she tries to play the other side. And it doesn't work. Because she's running out of excuses. There's really no reason. She can't... This is why this choice here, and this moment, is so important to this series. Because she can't get out of it anymore. She's no excuse now. Anything she says now is basically going to be admitting that she doesn't believe in the Apex's whole ethos anymore. Which is neat. Because it's not overt. I like when they challenge kids this way. This is the sort of thing they do in good drama. You know, where you know what the characters are actually thinking. And what the conversation's really hinting at and about. But no one's actually saying it. You get that in proper drama. Often in kids' shows, every character just says how they feel. Overtly and outright to each other. So, what I think is very, very clever. Yeah, it's clever. It is just clever, straightforward. About this is just that she's like, oh, it's just safer, Simon. We can stay. We'll stay. But it's so clearly bullshit. And you can literally, like that meme from The Simpsons, you can see the moment, you can freeze frame it, you can see the moment his heart breaks or whatever. You can see the exact second Simon finally sees her, really sees her, knows what's happening, understands that that's clearly bullshit. Utterly bullshit. So yeah, it's mind melted. Like it's such an important moment in this show. It's great. It's the conflict that's going to carry the next two episodes, I think. Those two. So yeah, Simon then sees the clip, which on top, this is just like blow after blow this episode. He sees a clip that confirms that she's known for ages that Hazel is a Nola denizen, creation of the train, and he tears up, and I think that's intended to be a bit of a potential bluff. It's not going to catch everyone out, I don't think, but I do think some people are going to come out of that episode genuinely feeling like Simon's tears are heartfelt tears for what he's done to Hazel. They've said it, it's so clever, it's so good, because the moment they choose to show in this episode that he's watching is the moment that Hazel is scared of him and Grace comforts her. And I think those tears are what they want you to think, and I definitely think it's done very effectively, and I think a lot of people will go along with this, and hey, maybe they're actually right, but I don't think so, is that he's seeing the error of his ways, and that's what those tears are. He's realizing the hurt he caused that little girl. But I don't think so. I think that's him realizing his friend is gone. That's mourning, but mourning for Grace. And the next episode's going to start with him playing happy and nice, but he's up to something now. He's going to try and take control of the Apex, for sure. Those are tears of a man who's realizing with a very deafening blow that his friend has lost her way. So I definitely think he's going to pretend things are alright in the next episode. I do. So there's only two episodes left now, which doesn't feel enough, by the way. Like, I genuinely can't wait to see where this goes. I can only really... what I love about this show is that every year, to my knowledge, I've had so few ideas about what the final episodes will contain. This is the third year running that's been the case. Where am I at? 32 minutes. I'm okay. I've talked fast. So, very quickly, while I've got a couple minutes left, let's talk about what I think might happen, some of the stuff that we might cover in the next couple episodes, but this, we're very much, as I speculated, as I said at the start of this, we're very much in loose speculation now, based on just where I think the story might go. I think Grace is going to see into her own tape. They set up that's very dangerous. I wouldn't be surprised if Simon oh yeah, that's what you do. So Simon's all nicey with Grace, but he knows she's betrayed him, and he lets her see his tape. Oh yeah, he shows her tape to trap her while he runs off to go claim the Apex for himself now. Boom. Theory. Again, we're in the realm of speculation, not evidence-based, but that, to me, fits really well. We know he knows the tape is dangerous. If she just stumbled across it, he might try to stop her if he was genuinely on her side. The only reason I think we have to see her tape, because the other thing I think is that she's getting off the train. And if we're going to show her getting off the train, then we need to understand why she got on the train. We can deal with Simon or Amelia later in another season, if we ever want to show them leaving. Someone's leaving this season, and I think it's Grace. But I think... So, let's look back a little bit. So, the way I see it playing out. Simon plays nice, maliciously shows her the tape, knowing what it's going to do. Uses it as an excuse to try and seize power in the Apex. Grace gets out of it after having dealt with some of her own personal problems or reliving some of that, the way Tulip did when in the original Cat episode. Not the original Cat episode, I suppose. No, the cat's car, the middle, the second episode we saw the cat, not the donut hole beach car one, where Tulip goes into her tape. Grace will fight her way out. We'll learn about her past on the way, and then she's going to go to stop Simon, who has taken over the Apex. She's going to try and do her best to get the kids away from him. I think that's the conflict that's going to drive the last episode. Now, regardless of what happens there, because I don't really know how you end that. Do you end that with her telling the kids that Simon's been wrong and leaving him with nothing, and he's just this bitter guy in the Apex's mall car to be a villain in a future season? Maybe. Yeah, I could see that, or him just running away. But either way, I think she's going to get those kids out of there, convince them otherwise, I think. And I think when she does that, and she realizes what they've been doing is wrong and regrets that, I think her portal is going to come. And I think it might even come with her gloves still on. So it's going to be a real surprise. And I think the conflict then is going to be that she wants to go home, but she doesn't want to leave Hazel. And there's two solutions to that. Solution one. When Grace frees those kids and Bitter Simon exists, he tries to hurt Hazel to get at Grace. Enter Tuba to save the day. Doesn't kill Simon, but Tuba saves the day and punts Simon out into another car or something. That's option one. Option two, Grace sort of defeats and leaves Simon, miserable grumpy guy, no apex left, all that jazz. But Grace doesn't want to leave when her portal comes, but 1-1 says, well, I can solve that, and recreates Tuba so that Hazel has someone, so that Grace can feel comfortable leaving the car, knowing that someone is looking after Hazel. And Tuba and Hazel go off into the sunset, Grace goes through her portal, and we're left with a bitter Simon. No apex. Angry, still feeling like he was right. All that jazz. I very powerfully feel that. That's like the most sensible sequence of events I can envision. It's also the most. It's just, you know what it is. It's that thing we talked about. Like sometimes a story is like a sort of puzzle, and it's once you're this close to finishing it, the image is pretty obvious. I definitely wouldn't rule out all sorts of other stuff. I'm not planting a flag in these theories. It's worth to kind of make that point now. But that is by far the most logical way to end this story for me. So we'll see if the writers felt the same way. I feel like I'm going to be happy either way. They've done such a great job with this series. It's going to be a win-win for me. Either they do exactly that, and I'm happy because I think that is the right ending for the show, or they're going to do something else which I'll be even happier with because it'll surprise me. So I'm victorious either way. But that's the kind of the way I see it shaking out in the next couple episodes. Yeah, there's some cool stuff. I love it. I really do love it. There's something exciting to me about the idea of leaving Simon on the train. Yeah, there's something about that idea that really sits right with me. Like it's almost like the Lotso punishment from the end of is it Lotso? Is that the villain's name from the end of Toy Story 3, where he ends up sort of trapped, stuck to the front of that guy's van, leaving Simon on the train, friendless. Sad little king on the top of his sad little hill with no dominion to rule over. That's too juicy after killing Tuba, I think. Yeah, hopefully you guys agree. I don't know. Put your theories down below. I'd love to know. We've got a couple days till those episodes come out. It's Sunday for me now. I'm recording this at like 7 in the evening on a Sunday. This will be going out in a few hours from when I record it. I would love to hear what you guys think about the ending of this and where it's going. So yeah, that is everything. I'm going to just wrap this up quickly this time for once in my life. So yeah, thank you so much for listening. I will see you guys presumably Tuesday or Friday next week with my review of the last 2 episodes. Do I know the titles? I want to wrap this up quickly, but what is the title of the next episode? I genuinely don't know. It's frustrating. Hold for 1 second. I'm sure we know, though. I'm sure HBO kind of... blew it's the wrong word. I think HBO Max put up like the listing for the series, and that came with titles. It's here somewhere. Oh, here we go. Ep titles. Yeah, here we are. I found them. Quick interjection. I thoughtlessly read out the titles for the final 2 episodes here, and then I also sort of read their descriptions and sort of try to match them to my theory. If you don't want to hear the descriptions that are officially out for the next 2 episodes, don't listen to the rest of this podcast. You can leave safely here. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Otherwise, here's the last minute or so of this podcast. Here we are. Yeah, the origami car and the new Apex. Yeah, I mean, oh god, looking at the description of that episode, the gang is finally ready to meet the Apex again, but keeping secrets as consequences. So they know they're a car away, the origami car. That's when Simon's going to try and trick Grace into going into the thing and go ahead. And then the final episode, the new Apex. The gang reaches the Apex, but what will the new order be? Simon's gotten there ahead of them. See? And it's about Grace sort of educating them and trying to get them off that whole old school way of thinking. There you go. I mean, mic drop. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, so that's where I'm going with that, and that's kind of the that's kind of my thinking. Oh man, I probably shouldn't have like read the descriptions of those 2 episodes out, should I? I have to record a little. I'm gonna have to record a little or cut them out. Damn. Did not occur to me. Oh well, I'll come back to that. But yeah, thank you very much guys for listening, and I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.